In today's daily text, we turn to the Bible and prayer to find comfort in Jehovah. Just as Jesus showed compassion, God binds up our wounds. By maintaining strong faith and staying close to the congregation, our spirituality can recover even from deep emotional pain. Psalm 147:3 describes Jehovah as a tender nurse or doctor. He sees our efforts to serve Him despite our sorrow, and He is eager to support us. However, to benefit from the great physician's care, we must follow His instructions. In this video, we discuss how accepting the loving advice found in His Word allows the healing process to begin. Imagine a young man who enjoys woodworking in his garage. He is building a table for his family, a project of love. One afternoon, while distracted by a sudden noise, his hand slips. The chisel he is using gouges deep into his palm. The pain is immediate and blinding. He grabs a cloth to stem the flow of blood, his heart racing with panic. He knows this is not a scratch, this is a wound that requires professional help. He rushes to the emergency room. A skilled doctor examines the injury. The doctor's touch is gentle but firm. He cleans the wound, which stings fiercely, and then begins the delicate work of stitching the skin back together. He applies a soothing ointment and wraps the hand in a clean white bandage. "This will heal," the doctor says, looking him in the eyes, "but you must follow my instructions. Keep it clean, change the dressing, do not use the hand for heavy work yet. If you listen to me, the function will return." The young man goes home. The wound still throbs. He is frustrated because he cannot work as he used to. But every time he looks at the bandage, he remembers the doctor's promise. He follows the regimen scrupulously, trusting that the physician knows the pathway to restoration better than he does. This physical scenario mirrors a profound spiritual reality that many of us face. We walk through life and inevitably we get cut. Sometimes it is a slip of our own making. Sometimes it is an accident caused by living in a dangerous world. Sometimes it is a direct attack. The result is a broken heart, an emotional wound that bleeds invisibly but painfully. The psalmist, in the beautiful words of Psalm 147:3, describes Jehovah not just as a creator of stars, but as a tender physician who heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. This imagery is deeply moving. It portrays Jehovah as intimate, hands-on, and clinically skilled in the art of emotional repair. But the question arises, what does Jehovah see when He looks at His servants on earth? Does He only see our productivity? Does He only count the hours we spend in the ministry or the comments we give at meetings? The source material for today assures us that He sees much more. He is aware of our joys and our sorrows. When Jehovah looks at you, He does not just see a publisher. He sees the person behind the suit or the dress. He sees the struggle it took for you to get out of bed this morning. He sees the heavy cloud of depression you're fighting through to smile at the brothers. He sees the grief that sits like a stone in your chest while you sing the kingdom songs. And here is the most comforting truth. When He sees that we are serving Him to the best of our ability despite coping with painful emotions, how pleased He is. He values your service not just for its output, but for the effort it costs you. The widow's mite was valuable because it cost her everything. Your service during a time of heartbreak is valuable because it costs you your comfort. However, Jehovah is not content to simply watch us suffer and applaud our endurance from a distance. He is eager to support and comfort us. He wants to be the doctor who stitches the wound. But as the illustration of the woodworker shows, the patient has a role to play. A doctor can prescribe the best medicine in the world, but if the patient refuses to take it or takes it incorrectly, the healing will not happen. What must we do to benefit from Jehovah's care? We must treat His word as the ultimate prescription. We must carefully follow the doctor's instructions. To understand the journey of a broken heart, from the initial shattering to the eventual binding up, we can look at the life of a faithful woman from the time of the Judges, Naomi. Her story is not one of a single dramatic sin, but of a slow, crushing accumulation of sorrows that left her spirit pulverized. Naomi lived in Bethlehem, the house of bread, but the bread ran out. A famine struck the land. Her husband, Elimelech, made a decision to move the family to Moab to survive. We can imagine Naomi packing her belongings, looking back at her home, and feeling the first tear of separation. She was leaving the land of Jehovah's promise for a land of pagan gods. In Moab, the tragedy unfolded in slow motion. First, her husband Elimelech died. The text is brief, but the pain was immense. She was now a widow in a foreign land, a vulnerable single mother with 2 sons. She poured her life into those boys, Mahlon and Kilion. They grew up and married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. For 10 years, Naomi rebuilt her life around this small, fragile family unit. She likely thought the worst was over. But then, the unthinkable happened. Both of her sons died. No grandchildren, no husband, no protection. Naomi was left with nothing but 2 graves in a foreign soil and a heart that was shattered into 1,000 pieces. When she heard that Jehovah had turned His attention back to His people and given them bread, she decided to return to Bethlehem. But look at her state of mind. She was not returning with joy. She was returning with deep, festering bitterness. When she walked into Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred. The women asked, "Is this Naomi?" The name Naomi means my pleasantness. It implies sweetness, delight. But Naomi could not bear that title anymore. It felt like a lie. She looked at her old neighbors and said with raw, brutal honesty, "Do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara, for the Almighty has made it very bitter for me." Mara means bitter. This was her self-diagnosis. She felt that the universe had turned against her. Listen to her reasoning. "I went out full, but Jehovah has brought me back empty." She felt that Jehovah was the architect of her misery. She said, "Jehovah has testified against me." This is the classic symptom of a broken heart. We feel targeted. We feel that God has withdrawn His protection, or worse, that He is actively punishing us. Naomi was walking in a dark valley of emotional pain. She was functioning, she walked the road, she found a house, but inside she was bleeding. Yet watch how the great physician began to bind up her wounds. He did not appear in a storm wind to correct her theology. He did not send a prophet to scold her for her bitterness. He healed her through the quiet, loyal love of a companion. He had provided Ruth. Ruth refused to leave Naomi. Quote, "Where you go, I shall go. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God." End quote. Ruth was the first layer of the bandage. Jehovah used the loyalty of a fellow believer to support Naomi when she was too weak to stand on her own. Naomi was too bitter to see it at first, but Ruth was God's hands holding her together. Then Jehovah began to provide for her physical needs through the arrangement of gleaning. He directed Ruth's steps to the field of Boaz. Boaz was a man of outstanding character, a foreshadowing of Christ. He protected Ruth, and by extension Naomi. When Ruth came home with an ephah of barley, a huge amount, Naomi's eyes opened a little. She saw food. She saw safety, and for the first time in a long time, she spoke a blessing instead of a complaint. "Blessed be he by Jehovah, who has not failed in his loyal love toward the living and the dead." The healing had begun. The ointment was working. The process continued as Boaz acted as a repurchaser. He married Ruth, he restored the family line of Elimelech, and then came the final binding of the wound. Ruth gave birth to a son, Obed. The women of Bethlehem came to Naomi again. This time they didn't ask, "Is this Naomi?" They declared, "Blessed be Jehovah, who has not let a repurchaser fail you today. He has restored your life and nourished you in your old age." Then the Bible gives us a picture that is one of the most tender in all Scripture. Naomi took the child and put him in her bosom, and she became his nurse. Picture that scene. The elderly grandmother, whose arms had been empty and aching for her lost sons, now holding a warm, living baby against her chest. That baby was the grandfather of King David and an ancestor of Jesus Christ. Jehovah had not emptied her. He had emptied her hands of something temporary to fill them with something eternal. He had bound up her wounds. The scar was there. She would never forget her husband and sons, but the wound was no longer bleeding. She was Naomi again. She was pleasant. She was whole. What practical lessons can we, as modern-day servants of Jehovah, extract from this touching account? How do we follow the doctor's orders when we are the ones who were brokenhearted? First, we must acknowledge the wound. Naomi did not pretend everything was fine. She was honest about her bitterness. Sometimes, in an effort to appear spiritual, we hide our pain. We smile at the kingdom hall while our insides are screaming. But you cannot bandage a wound you refuse to uncover. Jehovah knows you are hurting. It is not a lack of faith to admit that you are struggling with depression, grief, or anxiety. It is the first step toward healing. Pour out your heart in prayer. Tell Jehovah exactly how you feel, even if, like Naomi, you feel that he has allowed this bitterness. He can handle your honesty. He prefers honest pain to hypocritical praise. Second, we must accept the aid of nurses. Jehovah rarely heals us by a direct miracle from the sky. He heals us through the brotherhood. Ruth was Jehovah's gift to Naomi. Boaz was Jehovah's gift to Naomi. Today, Jehovah uses the elders, mature sisters, and compassionate friends to apply the bandages. When a brother offers to help you with chores, accept it. When an elder wants to shepherd you, listen. Do not isolate yourself. Isolation is the breeding ground for infection in a spiritual wound. Naomi tried to push Ruth away, saying, "Go back, my daughters." But Ruth stuck to her. Thank God for the friends who stick to us even when we try to push them away in our grief. Let them love you. That love is Jehovah's love in human form. Third, we must follow the prescription of spiritual routine, even when it tastes bitter. The doctor tells the patient to move the injured hand, even if it hurts, to prevent stiffness. In our spiritual life, the routine of meetings and ministry is the physical therapy. When you are brokenhearted, singing a song of praise might feel impossible. Going out in service might feel like climbing a mountain. But this is the therapy. By forcing our minds to focus on Jehovah's promises, even for an hour, we are applying the ointment to our souls. We are reminding ourselves of a reality bigger than our pain. Naomi didn't stay in the house forever. She engaged in the strategy to secure Ruth's marriage. She got involved in life again. We must keep moving, even if it is just a slow limp. Fourth, we must trust the timing of the great physician. Wounds do not heal overnight. A broken bone takes weeks to knit together. A broken heart may take years. Naomi's healing was a process that unfolded over harvest seasons and gestations. Do not get discouraged if you are not over it quickly. Do not let others rush your grief. Jehovah is patient. He binds the wound, meaning he wraps it up to give it time to heal. He doesn't demand that you run a marathon on a broken leg. He just asks you to trust him while the bone knits. Trust that he is working in the background, just as he was working through Boaz when Naomi couldn't see it. Finally, we must look for the new life that Jehovah brings. Naomi thought her life was over. She thought she was a dead branch, but Jehovah grafted new life onto her family tree through Obed. Your life may not look like it did before the tragedy. The loss is real. You cannot go back to the way things were, but Jehovah can bring new blessings, new avenues of service, new relationships that you cannot foresee right now. He is the God of resurrection. He creates beginnings out of endings. Watch for the small blessings, the barley that He provides daily, and trust that a greater restoration is coming. In the new world, Jehovah will complete the healing process. He will wipe out every tear from our eyes. The painful memories that haunt us now will not be called to mind. But until that day, we are in the field hospital of this old system. We are all wounded soldiers. But we have the best doctor in the universe. So if you are feeling like Mara today, bitter, empty, and hurt, know this. Jehovah sees you. He is not judging your tears. He is gathering them in His skin bottle. He is preparing the bandages of comfort. He is sending the Ruths and the Boazes into your life. He is rewriting your story from tragedy to triumph. Trust His hands. They are gentle, they are strong, and they will never let you go until you are whole again.